humanity sets the agenda.
Good day to everyone that's joining us. We're still focusing largely on Palestine and what currently is happening there, and how Israel still continuing to oppress the people of Palestine, and committing some of the most horrendous humanitarian acts, anti-humanitarian acts, I should say, against the people of Palestine. I mean, in less than a week, in less than a month, you have more than 5,000 people that are dead. And as much as it is important to focus on the people that are in Palestine and are currently enduring the relentless attacks by the by the Israeli forces, it's also important to keep in mind that Palestinians are also scattered all around the world, and many of them have families who are in the eye of the storm, so to stay, who are in the middle of the crisis that's currently happening in Palestine, and all the attacks and all the bombardments that the Israeli government is currently throwing at them. And one of them is Dr. Abu Salam. Shahid Abu Salam. She's a Palestinian academic. She's from Palestine, but she's currently residing in London. Are you able to hear me, Dr. Shahid?
Hi, my name is Shahd Abu Salama, and I've been talking to your radio since my times in Gaza, since my teenage times in Gaza. And
Maybe you can just tell us a bit about your time in Gaza, and how you ultimately made your way to the UK before we jump into what's been happening in the last month, and you leaving your family there.
yes, I've been talking to your listeners since, if I remember correctly, 2011. I was 20 years old then, reporting from under constant bombing. Everyone in Gaza, everyone from Gaza is a survivor. And right now, my family has survived, some of them have survived 19 days of constant bombardment, constant killing, and constant devastation. Just a couple of days ago, I received the news about my cousins, Khalil and Rena. Khalil, who's only a few years older than me, he had a family. He used to have a family, and his family consisted of his wife and 3 children. Now he's the only survivor of his family. In that very same attack, my other cousin, Rana, was killed with her 2 children, Masa and Muhammad. Masa was born at the same day as my niece, who's now 5 years old and is still growing in Gaza. I haven't seen her, by the way. I haven't got even a chance to see Ilya, my niece Ilya, growing. And she's got a sister recently who's barely 2 months old. And I also haven't seen her yet because of the brutal situation of siege that has been choking and incarcerating more than 2 million Palestinians in Gaza for decades. Masa was born at the same day as Ilya, my niece. But Masa faced her death with her mom and brother 2 days ago while they were sleeping at home. The pain is intolerable. It's indescribable. We have no more tears left to shed. We are all under extreme shock and horror. And in fact, the last death toll has surpassed 6,500 Palestinians since the start of Israel's assault on 7th of October. Ceasefire needs to happen now, and no more delay to this, no more indifference about Palestinian lives. Israel has killed in 8 days of this attack, in the first 8 days of this attack, they had killed more than they managed to massacre in the 51-day attack on Gaza in 2014.
I know it's very difficult for you, but you know, just going through your social media, I noticed that you know, your mother and some of your siblings are still there. What was the last you know, conversation you've had with them? And secondly, how do you feel when you're so far away, not being able to see them, not being able to talk to them at some times, because we know that sometimes electricity is out, sometimes the
All
internet
the
is
time,
out. Yeah,
all the time. There's
yeah.
no electricity whatsoever.
Mm. So how does that make you feel, knowing, you know, the next day you might not be able to talk to them because you know, of the attacks that are currently going on from a distance, and you being so far away in London?
Sorry, I'm finding it really hard to speak.
It's
And
okay, you can take your time. It's
I'm
okay.
breathing very heavily with everything that we've experienced. But I hope that my voice is clear to your listeners.
It is very clear.
My last phone call with my mom happened last evening. I've been trying to get in touch with them this morning, but there's no luck so far. My family right now, they're not at home. They have been displaced from the north of Gaza, where we usually live. We normally live in the north of Gaza, Jabalia refugee camp, to be specific. But after a criminal military order from Israel, over 1 million who normally live in the north of Gaza were ordered to be displaced to the south, while continuing to bomb the south. So my family are right now in the south, in Al-Nusayrat refugee camp, actually central Gaza, but it's south of Gaza River. So yesterday's phone call with my mom was another horror call. She told me that she was going to the mall nearby, like a walking distance from where they are seeking refuge right now, to get some supplies for the house, food. There are so many families in this house right now. More than 50 are crammed in one house, and they barely have one meal a day. They don't have access to water, electricity. Thanks to community support, people share everything, and they're trying to get by and keep themselves alive, but they feel dead inside. So on my mom's attempt to go to the mall, which failed miserably. 200 meters away, Israel shells that specific small mall that has been acting as a lifeline for Al-Nusayrat refugee camp, where they are staying right now. And hundreds of people are running in the streets. Some of them are lying dead on the street. My mom saw everything happen right in front of her eyes. And she's experienced such close encounters with death. Almost every day we talk to her, she tells us she survived in a miracle. Yesterday, this happened on her way to the mall. The day before that, she was going to get bread alongside some family members. She was accompanied by my brother and his wife, and my cousin and his wife, and they were in my uncle's car, driving to what remains of Gaza bakeries to buy some bread. They had run out of it for more than 2 days, and the children haven't had even one piece of bread for more than 2 days because of Israel's genocidal policies that have cut off food, electricity, water, fuel, medicine. And on the way to the bakery, they managed to get the bakery just after managing to they queued for hours alongside hundreds. And then coming back home, Israel also shells the bakery near where people were queuing. Most of them were between dead and wounded. It was a massacre. A massacre.
So, as a
people could risk death. People could face their fate going to get bread or water to survive. Israel is literally, with its genocidal policies, it's attacking every means of survival for the incarcerated population of Gaza. And all we hear from the world is just obsession with the Israeli hostages that are in Gaza, when they are actually showing no serious care for them. If they care for them, they would care for the Palestinians that are also now facing the same fate, the same conditions. And they have been facing these conditions, these terrorizing conditions for decades, for 75 years of Israel's colonial occupation. They don't care for the people of Gaza. They don't care for their hostages, and if they did care, they wouldn't have dropped last thing I heard on Al Jazeera, that Israel has dropped so far, which equals 1.5 of Hiroshima bomb. On Gaza, they've dropped that amount of explosives. Can you believe it? How is the world watching this and not demanding ceasefire, not demanding the prevention of such losses, of such immense loss of life? To answer your second question, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do while I'm far away. I know exactly what they're going through. I've been through 2008, 2009 attack on Gaza. Before that, even 2006, what Israel called the summer rains operation, summer rain, because they literally shelled Gaza in the middle of the summer. and the bombs here, the rain is a metaphor for bombing, for the bombs they dropped on Gaza. And then 2008, 2009 attack on Gaza, and then 2011 attack on Gaza, and so many attacks in between. And we've survived so much, and I've been myself at close encounter with death so many times. And I know exactly the feeling of isolation, the feeling of abandonment that they feel from the international community. And I can't do anything. I feel like I can't do anything except using my voice, except crying for them to stop this massacre, to stop this genocide. It is genocide. It is genocide accompanied with a plan for ethnic cleansing. And Israel. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem at all. I think so often, when we hear about Gaza, it's from the media's point of view, it's from television articles that we read, but we don't really always get to speak to someone that has lived their childhood, their whole childhood in Gaza. Just in a nutshell, if you can paint a picture for us, how was growing up for you in Gaza as a little girl, seeing all the atrocities happening around you, as you mentioned, coming so close to near-death experiences. Just paint a picture for us. How is it for the small children in Gaza right now?
I cannot even begin to imagine what little children are going through. My niece Ilya, like her first few words were bombs, saruch, she would say. That was some of her first words when she was barely like 2 years old. And right now, whenever she sees my mom or her parents ready to go or dressed to get some supplies to keep them alive, she's in panic, and she keeps crying and begging them, please don't leave, or else Israel will bomb you. And we don't know how can you calm like little children like this when you see like Israel. I mean, like they are the most heartbreaking thing in this insane attack. There's almost 3,000 Palestinian children that have been killed since this attack. Like, how can you even grasp this number? How can you grasp this number? How can you juxtapose this number against Israel claims of bombing Hamas infrastructure and actually believe them? When I was growing up, I was born in the middle of the first Intifada, and now history books, they speak of the first Intifada as an example of peaceful resistance, Palestinian civilians led resistance against occupation. The first Intifada was called also the Intifada of the stones, because the stones were the maximum weapon that Palestinians have faced with the US-funded Israeli military. And I came in the middle of a curfew imposed against Jabalia refugee camp where I was born. And this Jabalia refugee camp has suffered so many massacres. So many massacres, I can't even count them. One of these massacres is the one that had just led to my cousins and their families being wiped off civil registries. I was born in the middle of a curfew in 1991. And at that time, Hamas barely existed. They barely had any influence. And the Israeli army was indoctrinated to kill any moving being during that time. And my mom had her labor during this time, and she had to leave to give birth to me. She had to leave. She left accompanied by my grandmother. My dad was at home. He stayed at home because he could risk persecution if he accompanied my mom to labor. They had faced such deadly consequences that my grandmother had to wave a white flag to say that we are bringing a baby to this life in peace. And still, they were harassed by the Israeli army on the way and had pointed their guns at my mom's belly as she was in pain, saying, "Oh, you're gonna bring the next terrorist child." The level of dehumanization that Palestinians have faced is beyond description. And this has been going since even pre-state times. This is a colonial legacy that renders native populations, indigenous people, as inferior, as disposable, not as worthy of dignity and freedom as European populations, as the colonizers, as the settlers. And this legacy is still informing the rhetoric of media and world leaders today. And that is allowing more bloodshed and more devastation that has led to more than 50% of Gaza's residential homes to be damaged. We are talking about genocide and ethnic cleansing as happening right now. And this the Palestinians have experienced over and over again. My grandparents were my age when they were expelled from their villages in Ashdod, that is now being often on TV and is claimed as Israel. We come from that land. But we're denied return. And our right to return is entrenched in international law. UN Resolution 194 of 1948 has urged the return of over 1 million Palestinian refugees that Israel has ethnically cleansed in 1948. But Israel has strictly denied our return, one generation after the other, by military and political means. We've tried every possible way to resist for our dignity and freedom and justice that has been denied systematically. We've tried peaceful resistance. We've seen Gaza go in their hundreds of thousands to Israel's separating fence with our stolen lands during the Great March of Return in 2018. And we saw them sniping down journalists and paramedics and civilians, unarmed civilians, just crying, desperate for justice, for freedom, for any resemblance of life. Whatever the Palestinians have tried to do, even some of our leadership tried to engage with so-called peace negotiations that have proved to have only consolidated Israel's systems of apartheid and settler colonialisms. Israel has expanded its settlement over our lands at the expense of displacing and dispossessing more Palestinian families who are at threat of dispossession every day. And this threat is happening in so many forms. In Gaza, it's happening in the form of mass killing and mass devastation through aerial bombing. In the West Bank, we see settler thugs setting homes, Palestinian homes, to fire, shooting at people while they're in their homes, in their neighborhoods. We know what happened to Muhammad Abu Khdeir in 2014, who was burnt alive by settlers in Jerusalem. And this been happening in more intensive form these days with Ben Gvir government and Netanyahu's government encouraging more such terrorist acts against the Palestinians. And they've been arming settlers. Settlers are not civilians. Settlers are not civilians under international law. Settlers are engaging in war crimes.
Sure. I think I can speak for South Africa at most that we are fully behind the people of Palestine and what they're currently going through. Would you say, is there more that the international community can do outside of the marches that we have to some government offices and to embassies? Is there more that we can do with regards to giving support to the people of Palestine and what they're currently going through and what they've been going through for the past 75 years?
We need to do everything possible to stop this injustice. Protests are good, but to be honest, I'm not sure it is proportionate with the disproportionate violence that we're seeing befalling our people in Palestine. I don't know what to say. There's a lot of complicity. I know the majority of South Africa are on our side, but I also know that there are a lot of people who are grieving the fall of South Africa apartheid, which Israel has supported to the last minute of its survival. And they've been working hand in hand with Israel, trying to propagate its lies and justify its crimes. And it's incredible, to be honest. At one point, I was once tricked and hosted by a radio in South Africa that is called Chai FM. When I heard that it was from South Africa, I accepted, assuming solidarity. But it turns out that it was run by Zionist South Africans who have a lot of sympathy to the settlers and nothing to spare to the native Palestinians who have been crying for freedom and justice for more than 100 years of British and Israeli settler colonialism. And I'm on air, and then I realized that they had hosted a Zionist student on their show to discuss who is Shahd Abu Salama before even hearing my own story. And a lot of lies are being constructed on their platform, demonizing me and trying to find legitimacy for Israel's pro-Israel's lobby attacks on me in the UK after I was appointed as a lecturer at Sheffield Hallam University. And it was just shocking then to be invited on air and to not be informed earlier that they have been discussing me on the show and then interrogating me as if like as if I have to to respond. I have to basically defend myself against their accusations that they've already concluded that I am basically an anti-Semite. We reject the conflation between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. And I am proud of my Jewish anti-Zionist allies who have been some of the greatest friends to me in the past period, especially from in my residence in the UK. And I will not allow anybody to dismiss Palestinians as anti-Semites and further dehumanize us and play into Israel's dehumanizing narrative that is designed to shield Israel from responsibility and accountability. We shouldn't let that happen, and we should all strive for a land where freedom, justice, and equality reigns for all people, regardless. We are fighting Israel because they're our oppressors, because they're our colonizers. We don't care what religion they hold, and there is no religion that justifies ethnic cleansing, that endorses genocide. There is no religion that does that, and Israel can't do this in the name of religion. No Jew should allow Israel to hijack Judaism. We need them to speak up against this state that is claiming to be a Jewish state in order to claim being a victim and to evoke the European guilt of anti-Semitism. And I have to stress here that anti-Semitism is a European problem. It's a European problem. Jews have lived in Palestine in peace before Zionism came over. And they are to this day, there are Jews who identify as Palestinians and live in Palestine side to side with their Palestinian native peers.
And just lastly, two questions before I let you go. You've been using your social media very powerfully, especially on Twitter. Would you say it's also a constructive way, a constructive means to continue spreading the message on Israel's aggression against Palestine? Is it correctly being used? Can it be used better? And secondly, if there's any message that you have, anything that you'd want the world to know, that is not in mainstream media, that is not communicated, globally about the current situation in Palestine, what would that one thing be?
I mean, social media right now is providing a great platform for the Palestinians to disseminate their silenced stories. And whatever in our power, whatever we can do, like we need to amplify these voices that are coming from Gaza. There are so many amazing and bright journalists who are informing us about what is going minute by minute from Gaza. And they're facing censorship. Like, for example, Mu'taz Azaiza, he's an amazing reporter who has been on the ground telling the world about what is going on, the horrors that he's been seeing with his own with his own eyes. And his account on Twitter has been suspended, and the Palestinian narrative is facing this at this time such great censorship and silencing, and we need to counter these attempts to demonize the Palestinians, to silence them, and remember that all of this is because Israel is threatened by the counter Palestinian narrative, and that silencing is to protect itself from accountability. They don't want the world to see the sort of terror they are raining upon the Palestinians. And we need to be a voice for them, amplifying their voice and challenging Israeli lies, challenging the political rhetoric that is trying to divide and rule, divisive rhetoric that is inflaming Islamophobia and even anti-Semitism. It's horrible what we're seeing, and we need to do everything possible in order to stop it. We know that the chain of complicity in Israeli apartheid is international, and we can see it in banks, in supermarket shelves, everywhere. We see it everywhere in academia, in media. We need to be this force that exposes those connections, that normalize the oppression inflicted upon the Palestinians by Israel since its foundation in 1948, on top of the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. We need to remind of the context, the right context that is being stripped of mainstream Western media right now, as if the history started on the 7th of October. The history started long before the 7th of October, and the Palestinians have endured so much. That we've endured, as I said, over a century of British and Israeli domination, and it is time for us to be free and live in dignity. Yeah, I hope this answers your questions. Just keep doing whatever possible in order to bring peace to this land that has never seen peace since Israel has existed.
No, thank you so much for giving us your time. Just know that South Africa is, you know, in support of the people of Palestine. Us here as a station ourselves, we're going to continue trying to spread the message as much as we can. And just lastly, before I let you go, I got a question here from social media about the two-state solution. Is it still viable? Is it still something that Palestinians think is the only way for peace? And if not, what is the solution now?
To be honest, like I see those people advocating for the two-state solution are the same people who are advocating for genocide and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. And it's just a talking point that is just said to say, oh, we care also about the Palestinians. The Palestinians need to have their own state too. But if there is such a serious desire, this would have happened long time ago. But actually, a Palestinian state is an idea that is rejected in principle by Israel, and there is no, it has died since its inception. The idea for two-state solution has died since its inception, because Israel has made it consistently clear that they want a land with no Arabs. This is a typical settler colonial ideology, a supremacist ideology that has never made a secret about its intention to get rid of the Palestinians. And even right now, we hear voices amongst Israeli officials saying that Ben Gurion, one of the founders of Israel and the first president of Israel, that he was wrong to not finish the job that he started. What is that job? The ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. The fact that that less than a quarter of the Palestinians remained on the land, and the fact that a lot of them went to Gaza and West Bank, were internally displaced. And they are literally, like, the genocidal rhetoric is in full view of the whole world. And alongside the rhetoric, the practices, even before this, has indicated that this proposal is dead. The two states is dead. It is a de facto one state right now. It is a de facto one state, but it's an apartheid state. It's a state that privileges Jews over native Palestinian Arabs, whether Muslims or Christians.
Mm.
And I hope that we see this land, we see this one state where freedom and justice and equality reigns, not apartheid.
And also, just lastly, what's the general perception and relationship that the people of Palestine have with Hamas? Is it a positive one, or is there maybe the rumblings of animosity towards Hamas? Maybe people saying, if you didn't do certain actions, then we wouldn't have been attacked the way that we have been in the past months. Just in closing, in short, the relationship that the people of Palestine have with Hamas. How's that relationship?
I find this strange. Like, if you ask the ANC, like, or what's the party that Nelson Mandela was
ANC, correct. Yes,
yes,
he was
like,
with the ANC.
if you ask what is the relationship between the ANC and Black South African, like, does it make sense to you? Do you know
Ye-
where that ends
ye-
and that starts? Or
Yes. It's quite similar because I can tell you for sure that in the 90s, before the ANC itself was banned, in some parts, not the whole of the country itself, there were people who didn't quite agree with some of the actions that the ANC was taking, and this is just out of inquisitiveness
yeah,
to try and understand the the relation and how the people of Palestine generally perceive Hamas.
I mean, the people of Palestine are like any people. We are heterogeneous.
Mm.
We are full of colors,
Mm.
and like, Hamas is just one component of Palestinian society, just like the ANC was one component of the South African society. But focusing on Hamas and not framing as well what they're doing in terms of anti-colonial resistance is a way to blame the victim, basically,
Mm.
and distract from the root causes of oppression, which is settler colonialism and apartheid.
Mm. Mm.
As I said, when I was born, Hamas barely existed. They had only announced themselves in 1987. In 1991, when I was born in 1991, they barely had any influence still, barely.
Mm.
And to focus on Hamas as if they are the problem, it's to give excuses to the actual occupying power
Mm.
that brings all this violence. They are the initiators of the violence, and violence brings violence.
Mm.
We can disagree with Hamas ideologically. Like, we have a lot of people have disagreements with Hamas, of course, on the way internal issues, and how they maybe interpret religion, and in some ways, like, these issues are a matter of internal debate. But when it comes to resistance, I think I think it's unfair to blame the victim for trying to free themselves of the violence that has been accumulating for so long.
Mm. No, definitely. I think we can end it on that note. Really, again, appreciate you giving us your time. I feel we'd be able to talk to you whenever we feel like it, just get any kinds of updates. You're asking about Ponty earlier. He's backstage. Maybe after the interview, you can just chat with him. But yeah, full support from our station, and a large part of South Africans, I can guarantee you, is in support of the people of Palestine. We see Palestine in ourselves, considering the history that we've gone through, and basically the template of apartheid Israel is what we have lived here in South Africa, and we understand. So that's why we'll unequivocally say we are behind the people of Palestine, and we'll try by any way possible to try and spread the message. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
and
much.
wish to talk to you again.
I hope next time we talk, Palestine will be free.
Even if it's not, but we'll continue, rallying the cries to make sure that it is. Welcome,
Thank
salam.
you. Wa alaikum salam. Ma salam.